the weather forecast with C3 Production.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a pleasure to have your company once again on the weather forecast. I hope your evening is coming on really great. Tonight, we may have a calm weather dominate the nation with moderate to heavy precipitation in some parts of the east, far north, and the northwest regions. We may have as low as 18 degrees in the west region, the AVOWAL, center, and south as low as 21 degrees, and the littoral and southwest regions would expect temperatures as low as 24 degrees. Italy, in the east region this evening, there may be heavy rainfall in all the major towns, and a similar experience is expected by morning with a fully clouded sky in the east. Next, we move over to the far north, where this evening there may be heavy rainfall except for the town of Kuseri, and by morning there may be no chance of precipitation in the entire far north region. Lastly, we take you over to the northwest, where this evening heavy rainfall may dominate the entire region, and this experience will progress till morning in the northwest region. To protect yourself and others against the coronavirus, wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water, sneeze with a flexed elbow, and in case of symptoms, call 1510. Have a good night.
Professor Joseph AVOWAL swears before the Congress of Parliament to perform his duty as Constitutional Council member in impartiality, the respect of the Constitution, and the secrecy warranted by his function. Snapshots of the oath-taking and his profile in this newscast. Cameroon's 8 state universities will soon benefit from state-of-the-art academic and lodging facilities. The pilot phase of the agreement with the elite train group goes underway at the University of Yaoundé too. Cameroon's music icon Claude Ndam bows out after battling ill health at 65. His folkloric tunes transcended his native Bamoun and earned him international recognition, celebrated tonight on the 7:30 News. Good evening and thanks for joining us on the 7:30 News. Those were our headlines.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Welcome back. We begin our 30-minute newscast with the vow of Professor Joseph AVOWAL to be impartial, to respect the Constitution, and to keep secret the deliberations of the Constitutional Council. This was during the oath taken before the Second Congress of Parliament, presided over by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Kavaige Jibril. Senate correspondent Charles Anyangwe reports on the solemn ceremony attended by parliamentarians and state dignitaries.
Members of the upper and lower houses of parliament began streaming into the Yaoundé Conference Center as from 10 a.m. this morning to witness the swearing-in of Professor Joseph AVOWAL as member of the Constitutional Council. The holding of the Congress falls in line with the provision of the law.
It is pregnant with meaning in that it fulfills the constitutional provision of our Constitution.
The ceremony proper that lasted some 17 minutes started with the arrival of Honorable Kavaige Jibril, Chairman of the Congress, alongside Senate President Maxel Njifenji. After the verification of the quorum in conformity with Article 21 of the Rules and Regulations governing the Congress, Kavaige Jibril asked the Secretary General of the National Assembly, Gaston Komba, to read the decree nominating Joseph AVOWAL as member of the Constitutional Council. The high point of the Congress was the entry of Joseph AVOWAL into the House chamber under the watchful eyes of members of the two houses of parliament meeting in Congress, some cabinet ministers, and the other members of the Constitutional Council. This was followed by the oath-taking of Professor Joseph AVOWAL, in which he promised to be completely impartial and to keep the secret of the deliberations, as well as not to take side with the public in the exercise of his duties. Parliamentarians present described Joseph Owona as a square peg in a square hole.
With Joseph Owona, whom we know very well, I think he's going to do his job very well. He's going to be effectively in his work that he's doing, and we congratulate him for that.
I think there is no better person we would have had than Joseph Owona, considering that he's a constitutional expert and has contributed a lot in that direction in our country.
Prior to the oath-taking ceremony, members of the Chairman's Conference of the Congress met and declared the holding of the Congress admissible owing to the fact that it falls in line with the provisions of the law.
The 11th member of the Constitutional Council, Professor Joseph Owona, who officially begins duty today, is a jurist, a professor in public law and political sciences who has occupied several ministerial positions. The 75-year-old Professor Emeritus and Honorary Chancellor of the University of Yaoundé, Toussoua, has also been Fecafoot Normalization President. Sidonie Jokmandi now profiles the man who joins the Constitutional Council.
Professor Emeritus Joseph Owona was born in 1945 in Akomtou, in the Ocean Division of the South Region of Cameroon. The graduate from the University of Yaoundé in 1968, Universities of Paris 1 and 2, began his professional career as assistant lecturer at the University of Paris 1, notably at the Centre d'études politiques et juridiques du Tiers-Monde. His advocacy for public law and political science have granted him international repute since 1983. He has occupied, among other positions, such as Chancellor of the University of Yaoundé, Minister of Higher Education from 1983 to 2004, and Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic. Joseph Owona, who is known to be the architect of Cameroon's 1996 Constitution, is a member of the CPDM Central Committee. His competence and hard work has earned him a couple of distinctions in Cameroon and abroad. Today, member of the Constitutional Council, the Professor Emeritus Joseph Owona, who took office this Friday, looks forward to continue to provide his rich experience as a constitutional expert in that prestigious institution, the Constitutional Council.
The Constitutional Council of Cameroon, put in place in February 2018, is the competent authority to handle constitutional matters. According to Section 46 of the Constitution, it rules on the constitutionality of laws and is also the regulatory organ that oversees the functioning of institutions. In the following reports, Quinta Rita Edang highlights the functions of the organ and the trend covered since its inception in 2018.
In accordance with Article 46 of the 1996 Constitution of Cameroon, creating the Constitutional Council, the head of state on February 7, 2018, appointed members of the judicial organ with Clement Atangana at the helm. The Constitution further outlines the duties of the legal organ, which include the constitutionality of laws, treaties and international agreements, the handling of conflicts of powers between the states and the regions, as well as between the regions. The Council also has jurisdiction in matters pertaining to the Constitution. In addition, the structure, which is today the highest arm of the judiciary in Cameroon, has the duty to ensure the regularity of presidential and parliamentary elections as well as referendum operations. It is therefore within the ambit of the law that the Constitutional Council scrutinize and rule over pre- and post-electoral litigations presented by disgruntled political parties and individuals who took part in the 2018 senatorial elections as well as the October 7, 2018 presidential election.
If I have to evaluate their performance, they are above average. They have done well because when you just start a new assignment, we don't expect perfection. With time, knowledge and wisdom comes with time.
The Constitutional Council equally portrayed its zeal to enhance democracy in Cameroon through the organization of credible elections when the members of the structure took a groundbreaking decision in favor of the Social Democratic Front, ordering a rerun of the last February 9 legislative election in some parts of the Northwest and Southwest regions. The legal structure also has a duty to proclaim the results of both presidential and parliamentary elections. It is worth noting that the Constitutional Council has a sovereign power in that the decisions it makes are not subject to any form of appeal.
In one of our other top stories, Cameroon's 8 state universities will soon benefit from state-of-the-art academic and lodging facilities. This is thanks to a memorandum of understanding signed between the University of Yaoundé II and the Elite Trends Group in Washington, D.C., with affiliates in Europe and Africa. The pilot phase begins at the University of Yaoundé II, where the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famendongo, witnessed the launch. Gerard Nanji-Yambe has the details.
The issue of inadequate infrastructure in the University of Yaoundé II, due to increased educational demands, will soon become a thing of the past, thanks to the Memorandum of Understanding signed between that institution and the Elite Trend Group, an investment and consulting firm based in Washington, D.C. This endeavor, to be called Cameroon State University Cities Development Project, will provide students with world-class campus accommodation at affordable rates.
We're building a complete complex, administrative blocks, academic blocks, restaurants.
This initiative, which is financed by the U.S. and foreign investors on build, operate and transfer basis for a period of 5 years, falls within the new university governance policy.
Teachers need good infrastructures, and students also. The head of state has done a lot for the building of infrastructures. Students every year are very, very numerous, and these infrastructures will be built by our partner.
Upon completion, the University of Yaoundé II, as the pilot, will stand out as an exemplary model and gateway to world-class emerging education for Cameroon, Africa, and the world.
Still in higher education, the new director of the National Advanced School of Engineering, Yaoundé, Professor Remy Magloire Dieudonné Etoile, has been commissioned into office. He was installed alongside recently appointed officials of the institution by the rector of the University of Yaoundé I, Professor Maurice Aurélien Soso. Gerard Nanji-Yambe once again with the details.
The National Advanced School of Engineering Yaoundé has the responsibility to train engineers who will serve as the catalyst of the development that the country needs for its emergence by 2035. It was for this reason that the rector of the University of Yaoundé I, Professor Maurice Aurélien Soso, urged the new director to collaborate with other stakeholders for this vision to be realized.
I am going to work hard with my collaborators and students as well for the growth of the institution. I'm also going to improve on the training system of the students to yield good results.
Professor Remy Magloire Etoile is a lecturer in applied mathematics and holds a PhD from the University of Montreal in Canada. Before his recent promotion by a presidential decree, he cumulatively occupied since 2017 the post and coordinator of the African Center of Excellence in Information and Communication Technologies. The ceremony equally witnessed the installation of newly appointed heads of division and academic officials called upon to respect hierarchy as they exercise their respective duties.
All we have to do is to be rapid in the treatment of files.
This is what is expected of all of the officially commissioned officials.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
On COVID-19 news, 100,000 surgical masks, 20 complete respiratory assistance kits, and some 2,800 protective suits, gloves and caps have been offered to health personnel by the head of state, Paul Biya. The gifts were handed over to the Minister of Public Health, Manawuda Malashi, by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganje, today. Moke Edwin Kinzike reports that the gesture is a demonstration of the head of state's commitment to stem the coronavirus in Cameroon.
It is a presidential consignment of 100,000 surgical masks, 20 respiratory assistance machines, 70 protective gowns, 700 medical gloves, and 700 spherical caps that Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganje handed over to his public health colleague Manawuda Malashi. Minister Paul Atanganje says the gifts indicate how President Paul Biya holds medical staff in high esteem.
When President Paul Biya made his wonderful speech on the 19th of May, he said that the personnel of the ministry are doing a wonderful job. So now I think that the gesture that the head of state has made today by providing them 100,000 surgical masks, ventilators, and other equipment, even with the ambulance, it's another strong and very powerful message that the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, is determined to fight this pandemic.
Ministers Paul Atanganje and Manawuda Malashi visited the Health Emergency Center to see its functioning, had a working session, and passed this message to Cameroonians.
The best way of managing the pandemic is to follow the instructions which have been put in place by the head of state, by the President of Government, and all the necessary advice given to us by the structure of the Minister of Public Health, he and his team, so we have to accompany them.
Before the recent donation, President Paul Biya had offered rapid diagnostic tests that produced definitive results in 15 minutes, distributed face masks, buckets, soaps and hand sanitizers to markets, schools, universities, churches and palaces in all the subdivisions of Cameroon.
On to assistance that comes out of Cameroon. The People's Republic of China has donated a consignment of personal protective equipment, patients' thermal control, as well as follow-up material to the Cameroon Defense and Security Forces. The package, which also includes disinfecting items, was received by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency of the Republic in charge of Defense, Joseph Beti Asomo, in Yaoundé today. Kilian Datndifon has the details.
Brief in a military style, the Chinese ambassador to Cameroon, Wang Yingwu, symbolically handed over anti-COVID-19 material from the Chinese Ministry of National Defense to the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Beti Asomo, who received for the Cameroon Defense and Security Forces. The protective anti-COVID-19 material is in 3 categories: personal protective equipment, PPE, patient's thermal control and follow-up material, and decontamination equipment, masks, glasses, visors, electric syringes, thermoflashes, infrared temperature helmets, and a spray.
The people of China has always stand by the people of Cameroon with an unrestricted support of the measures taken by the government and the people of Cameroon under the supervision of President Paul Biya to fight the health crisis.
Minister Joseph Beti Asomo acknowledged that the military is just one out of many sectors of cooperation, citing diplomacy, economy, and culture.
Today, your country has chosen to donate protective material against COVID-19 to our defense and security forces following a high-level agreement of the 2 commanders-in-chief of our 2 armed forces. These important gifts are timely and will help us to reinforce our capacity and effectively fight against the pandemic.
The 2 Secretaries of State at the Ministry of Defense, Galaxy Toga in charge of the National Gendarmerie, Kumpa Issa in charge of ex-servicemen and war victims, and some top military officers were part of the ceremony.
In the southwest region, where the coronavirus is also spreading, the people of Bangem have been offered material that will keep them safe from the disease. The consignment of kits was donated by the Deputy Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic, Elong Poche. Ebenezer Akanga traveled to Bangem and reports on the philanthropic gesture hailed by the population of Kupemonenguba Division.
The consignment of anti-COVID-19 sanitary kits donated to the population of Kupe Manunguba Division include 6,000 face masks, water containers with taps, cartons of soap, disinfectants, spraying cans, hand sanitizers, and thermal flashes. The sanitary kits donated by Paul Elungche, who is Deputy Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic and an elite of Kupe Manunguba, will be shared to the 3 subdivisions that make up the division, that is, Bangem, Tombel, and Guti, to step up the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The mayor of Bangem described the donation as unprecedented and urged the population of Kupe Manunguba to make the right use of it. In his message delivered by a representative, the donor, Paul Elungche, told the population of Kupe Manunguba not to think that coronavirus is only in the cities.
He emphasized on 4 important points. 1, the issue of COVID. 2, a clarion call for all his brothers and sisters worldwide to continue in this same action. That was started by the head of state to follow him.
The senior divisional officer of Kupe Manunguba thanked the donor, saying that apart from the sanitary kits, Paul Elungche is doing much for the division.
If today we are enjoying this peace, it's thanks to the minister. If today our children are going to school, even if the number is still to be improved, it's thanks to our minister. And even now, the minister has started preparing the next academic year.
Kupe Manunguba does not have any case of coronavirus.
As the fight against the pandemic also intensifies in the northwest region, the firefighting brigade in Bamenda is disinfecting the town. With the support of the Bamenda City Council, some streets and localities reputed for the sale of fairly used motor spare parts have been sanitized, as we hear in this report by Karin Tosa.
The COVID-19 pandemic has left no one indifferent, nor any sector untouched. They that were reputed to quench fire outbreaks are now on the streets to rid them of COVID-19 in the city of Bamenda. A coronavirus disinfection process that continues in the cleaning of streets in the spare parts sector in Bamenda.
All this cleaning has not been done by the council alone. Everybody in this quarter has been out, and that is why you see the place so clean.
The campaign is part of measures by the Bamenda City Council to give the city a befitting look.
What I put as priority of the city mayor was to make sure that Bamenda City becomes cleaner and safer.
The traders in motor spare parts in this vicinity have pledged to sustain the spirit ignited by the City Council.
The promise is that we must make town to clean. The next thing we say that cleanliness is the next thing to godliness.
The mayor of the Bamenda City Council, while promising to take this campaign to other parts of the city, also used the outing to distribute face masks to the population.
Cameroonians have been reminded to continue to respect the anti-COVID-19 measures authorized by government. This comes at a time when the number of new infections keep rising in the country. Today, 183 persons have tested positive. What is the way forward and what can guarantee a downward curve? Baldwin Summer is at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center on what's current on COVID-19. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther Kim, and welcome to the Public Health Emergency Operations Center this Friday evening. Just to confirm what you said a while ago, this increase in the number of Cameroonians infected with COVID-19 on a daily basis, given that this Friday alone we have 183 confirmed cases of Cameroonians infected with COVID-19. And equally this Friday we have 83 Cameroonians who have recovered from the virus and 2 Cameroonians died of COVID-19 this Friday. And why has there been an increase in the number of persons tested positive for COVID-19 in the country lately? One of the reasons made available by public health experts of this emergency operations center happens to be the fact that they have been using some rapid test kits lately in most of the screening centers around the country. That is why it has been possible for them to get to screen many Cameroonians who turn out massively in most of these screening centers and have themselves tested positive. And they have equally used the opportunity to talk about more and more centers to cater for COVID-19 patients in the country that have gone operational, citing the example of the center in the nation's economic capital, Douala, that can receive that has a capacity of over 350 beds, that received its first patients on the 1st of June this year, 2020. They have equally cited the example of the former Oka building here in Yaoundé, that equally has a capacity of over 274 beds, that received its first patients this week. And the public health experts of this emergency operation center equally reminding Cameroonians of this increase in the number of screening centers in the Republic of Cameroon, especially in Douala and Yaoundé, to permit as many Cameroonians as possible to have themselves screened and get to know their status. So the take-home message from here tonight, Esther Kima, is that we have 183 Cameroonians tested positive for COVID-19. 83 Cameroonians have recovered from the virus, and 2 Cameroonians died of COVID-19 this Friday. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Baldwin. A clarion call for all to remain protected. Away from COVID-19, a convention which will fund electrification projects to the tune of 87 billion CFA francs has been signed between the Ministry of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development and the World Bank. Alamin Osman May appended the document on behalf of Cameroon, while Ibra Ramdam Sanusi signed on behalf of the bank. Luma Slim Davies reports that 6 regions in the country will benefit from the project.
The convention signed between Cameroon and the World Bank paves the way for a World Bank funding for a rural electrification project in the regions of the far north, North Adamawa, Northwest, East, and the Southwest.
We have a coverage of roughly 74% of electricity in our country and 50% access to the population. This is a situation we have to work harder to improve on, and this important financing coming from the World Bank, essentially concessional funding coming from either of 87.8 billion, these resources are going to help cover the underserved regions by extending the coverage and improving the access.
The project principally focuses on the extension of electricity network, the decentralization of rural electrification, and production cost reduction.
7,400 kilometers of transportation network will be built. More than 400 localities will be connected. More than 200,000 households will be connected, which means above 1 million people will have access to electricity.
The electrification project will be executed by the Rural Electrification Agency under the supervision of the Ministry of Water and Energy.
Cameroon joins the international community today to celebrate the World Day Against Child Labour on the theme COVID-19 Protect Children from Child Labour, now more than ever before. In Cameroon, 27.9% of children aged between 5 to 17, according to the National Institute of Statistics, are involved in child labour. Government has thus taken the engagement to implement a response mechanism to protect children, as Cynthia Saptala now reports.
According to the International Labour Organization and UNICEF, the COVID-19 pandemic poses a real threat to 2 decades of work done to fight child labour. With statistics showing over 150 million children already being exploited globally, the fear is that millions more may be pushed into labour. To combat this abuse of children nationally, Cameroon's government, through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, had adopted and implemented ILO's Minimum Age Convention plus the 2011 law on human trafficking.
Talk of child labor when somebody is employed somewhere, a child is employed somewhere and he's paid a salary. These children are mostly found in agriculture, in fishery, and to fight against child labor, the Ministry of Labour went into those farms and removed children from the farm. It is written in our Labour Code, Article 86, a child can work only if he's above 14 years old.
In the nation's capital, however, images like these of underage children street hawking are common. Though experts see there is a difference in child labour, there are concerns that with the current health crisis, these children are very much exposed.
The minister has actually started a campaign that started in Yaoundé to take these children out of the streets of Yaoundé, central town, and we are actually taking care of them in structures that Minas has provided.
Despite these efforts, government officials say the national and international community are continuously mobilized in order to develop and implement a monitoring system that should eradicate child labor in Cameroon.
Away from child protection, the 13th International Week of Archives is underway in the country, with archivists enjoined to collect, analyze and make available verifiable information on COVID-19. The Minister of Arts and Culture, Bidung Pat, made the call during the launch of activities which will centre around empowering societies through knowledge in the COVID-19 pandemic context. Emmanuel Avemnue has the details.
The National Archives is forming a block to contain the spread of the coronavirus by collecting, analyzing and storing every vital information linked to the virus in Cameroon. This initiative sets out to put at the disposal of Cameroonians a database on the virus which could be adapted for use in case of other pandemics.
It is only within the ambit of strengthening the knowledge society, especially artificial intelligence, digital preservation, that we can be able to survive.
The 13th edition of the International Week of Archives that will run from the 8th to the 14th of June 2020 launched today serves as that platform for Arts and Culture Minister to invoke the place of archives in the management of pandemics.
Strengthening knowledge societies concerns artificial intelligence, digital preservation, and emerging technologies whose impact transforms the work of information professionals and raises questions about the object they handle.
The celebration in all sobriety comes to awaken the conscience of people that preserving archives is saving the heritage of a nation.
And now on to this sad note, Cameroon mourns one of its finest poets, singer and composer, Claude Ndam. The native of Bamoun in the West region, renowned for his blend of folklore and rock way back in the 80s, died today at the age of 65. In 37 years of musical career, Claude Ndam earned national and international recognitions and will be remembered for his integrity. Emmanuel Avemnue has the details.
He has simply gone silent forever. He that took folkloric rhythms of Cameroon beyond borders with Ungoya, Lamu and lots more quits the stage at 65. Claude Ndam, the modern Bamoun storyteller as he was known, has sent the Cameroon music industry mourning.
Big shock. He fought the fight with his guitar as a chansonnier. He was able to modernize and render more visible the culture of our country.
37 years of musical career, lots of awards to his credit and musical training for the young generation. Nji, meaning notable of the Bamoun kingdom, has been described as a legend of good repute.
Claude Ndam was that kind of artist whose voice you will never hear in controversy, who was ready to stretch his hand out to artists and preach love. Most especially, he was that artist who carried the banner of Cameroon folklore, Cameroon true cultural music, far and wide.
His illness might have taken him off stage, but Claude Ndam, who rose to fame in the 80s, inspired many. Sergio Polo remixed his song Nuna, same for rapper Stanley Eno with Love Song. His death, artists say, leaves a vacuum that will not be filled in just a while in the music industry.
And that report brings us to the end of the 7:30 news. But before we go, a recap of our major stories. Professor Joseph Owona has sworn before the Congress of Parliament to perform his duty as constitutional
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing